This will be my greatest scientific achievement yet. This will be the one I am remembered for. I will give life to dead tissue and prove once and for all that death doesn't have to be the end. Sure, people may say that as a Frankenstein I should probably just get over it, since I have tried several times and they always turn out to be rampaging, misunderstood monsters of destruction. Sure. They may say that I have some weird, unhealthy fear of death and am trying to prolong life way beyond the bounds of rationality and reasonable ethics. And I've even heard some say that I smell weirdly of burnt ham. But I will not let that deter me from my maniacal and highly unstable goal of using a thunderstorm's energy to bring back a hodgepodge man made up of bits of dead criminals. Now, where is Igor? The storm is going to be here any minute, and he still hasn't brought me my leather apron and those 3 fingers I still need to stitch on. Ah, Igor, it's about time. I need to... Wait, you're not Igor?
No, I'm not. I'm Alan.
Well, what happened to Igor?
Well, the agency needs him on another gig.
What gig? What do you mean, gig?
Well, yeah, this Count, Count Flacula or something, needs a scary, scruffy and slightly mad manservant. Igor fit the bill. Although, now they want to call him Clove. It's a whole thing. I don't ask questions.
Well, this just won't do. I need Igor. I don't have time for this nonsense.
Well, you know, I can help. What kind of thing is going on in here? What's the big whirly thing?
How can you help? I doubt you even understand or agree with what's going on in here.
Well, what is going on in here?
Well, I've created my own man out of old body parts that Igor dug up from the prison cemetery. Stitched them together, and now I'm going to use this giant, unwieldy antenna to direct the force of lightning into the bolts in his neck.
Right, well, how does that work, then?
Well, it's highly scientific and confusing, so I won't go into it.
Sounds like random magic to me.
Well, it's not. It's scientific and everything.
By scientific, do you really mean cross your fingers and hope magic happens?
No.
Do you mean it a little bit?
Well, okay, maybe a bit. But all of life has a little unknown to it and chance to it, dear boy.
Well, it does if you live some fly-by-the-seat-of-your-britches sort of existence without any planning.
Oh, for goodness sake, I have to get on.
For example, do you even have a spreadsheet?
A spreadsheet?
Or a brief. We need to have a proper brief for all projects, something with bullet points that describes the workflow.
I don't have time for any of that. The storm's coming and I have a randomly stitched together person to resurrect.
Right, but how are the Burgermeister and the board members going to visualize that?
What board? What are you talking about?
Oh, Vicky, old chap, you can't be that naive. There's always a board.
And can I ask, does the Burgermeister ever have a bratwurst?
That's not funny. He only eats burgers and you know it. So what does this thing you're working on even look like, anyway?
Well, it looks like a man.
Yes, but what defines a man? I mean, we need to tread carefully so we don't offend women and the people who don't define themselves by their gender in the village.
Oh, dear, what are you blathering about? It has 2 arms, 2 legs, and a head.
Yes, but where?
The normal places.
Well, steady on. What exactly is normal? We're not all the same, you know. You're using very body-normative terminology here.
Look, I can hear the rumbles of the storm, and you're not helping me one bit, Alan.
If you don't be quiet, you'll be the first person I shove in the way of my creation's inevitably destructive path. But it was not to be. Alan and a group of well-dressed people carrying forms put a stop to the whole experiment and demanded he put together a PowerPoint presentation featuring business needs and solution goals with a view to fourth-quarter expansion of assets and brand continuity. And it was thus that Switzerland's potential to be on the forefront and cutting edge of medical breakthroughs with Dr. Victor Frankenstein and the world's #1 builder and provider of giant unwieldy lightning antennas with the potential to bring back the dead was halted, and the best they could manage was cheese and chocolate. Not that they both aren't delicious, you understand, but, well, anyway, on with the relentless drowning of other people's wild imagination and dreams over at the After-Movie Diner.
You're listening to the After Movie Diner with your host, John Cross.
That's right, I am John Cross, or at least that's what I've been telling people I am for decades, and now it is just kind of stuck. A lot like a used hobo bandage. Welcome badgers, badger fanciers, badger enthusiasts, people who are lukewarm on the whole badger thing, people who downright hate badgers, people who once had a badger attack them for using too much chipotle aioli on their organic fed grass knitted free cage gluten presuming hologrammatically farmed roast beef baguette, and Brian Blessed in a tutu claiming he is a commander of all the badger fleet and he shall ride them into victory on the battlefield of inevitable lunacy and wanton destruction. Oh, and ladies who are all far too sensible for any of that. Welcome one, and welcome all. This episode kicks off the first of 4 podcast episodes dedicated to the films of Hammer Studios, the British film company of the 50s, 60s, and 70s best known for their horror series. We will also have new articles on AfterMovieDiner.com from the bloke down the pub, our resident Hammer horror reviewer, and maybe a couple of other as-yet undetermined things. Watch, as the Welsh so rightly say occasionally while playing a game they call Crumpet Meat Buttocks, this space. Before we get to discussing our first film, a quick reminder that you can support the After Movie Diner in many ways, but one of them is going over to patreon.com, that's patreon.com/After Movie Diner, and becoming a patron of the show. You can make a one-time donation by clicking the Buy Us a Coffee button on aftermoviediner.com. You can click the Amazon.com link on our website before you do your shopping and bookmark that as your Amazon link on your browser so that every time you make a purchase and at no extra cost to yourself, Amazon slips us a few highly buffed pennies. Also, if you like music, you can go to Misc Plumbing Fixtures, that's MISC, plumbingfixtures.bandcamp.com, and get yourself an album or 5. Every single cent goes to keeping the website and this podcast afloat on this uncertain sea, on a turbulent internet, part of a fractious world that may or may not all be down to the proliferation of skinny or thin-fit trousers. If you have no money, simply rate and review the show on iTunes or wherever podcasts are found. Now, without further dribbling or loss of will, to a diner somewhere in the heart of New York City. I wanted to quickly do a bit of a mailbag before we go into the episode.
But not your mailbag.
My mailbag.
Not your mail.
No.
I don't want to do your
mailbag.
Bag.
You don't want to do
I don't
my
want to do
mailbag.
your mailbag.
Do my mailbag.
I don't want to do your mailbag.
My mailbag.
I don't want to do your mailbag.
He doesn't want to do my mail bag. My bag. Because
How long
I'm
can we
male.
keep going?
I don't know.
A long time.
A long time, all night.
Well, it turns out pretty far.
All night. So, here we go. Hello, and welcome to the After Movie Diner.
Hello.
This week we're in
Hello.
Hello, mate.
Hello.
I love your new tipfer.
Hello.
Not that it's a new tipfer, it's an old tipfer now, but to me it's still a new tipfer.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah. Tipfer, for anyone wondering, is hat.
Hat.
Hat. It's East End lingo or Cockney rhyming slang. For hat. As in tit for tat.
Tit for tat.
Hat. Tipfer.
Tipfer. Or just tit, I suppose.
Or just no, it's
given
tipfer.
I'm wearing on my head.
It's not just tit.
I'm just saying, given I'm wearing on my head and I'm
What
me.
I like about Cockney rhyming slang is
It's longer.
Not only that they went, okay, there's a rhyming scheme, apples and pears, dog and bone, tit for tat, Tilbury Docks, but that they then take the rhyming slang and remove the rhyming word and just use the first one. So they say like me old China, meaning me old mate,
Right.
China plate mate, but
Right.
they go me old China,
Yeah.
right? So they're removing the thing that makes it rhyming in the first place and then abbreviating it even further. So it's a whole, in order to figure it out, you have to do a whole equation before you get back to what it actually all means.
It's nice, though.
It is nice. I like it.
I knew what China meant
Right,
before I knew it was Cockney rhyming slang.
right.
what
Before
I mean?
you knew how to
China plate
figure
mate.
it out.
Yeah, I knew it was the old China.
Yeah. Here comes the postman. I wonder what he has for me. There's something in his big brown sack. I wonder what could it be. Well, I hope the bills it lacks and instead brings me some listener feedback, or maybe, just maybe, a big bag of crack. Oh, here comes the postman. I wonder what he has for me. All right, so this is our mailbag. Not my mailbag.
Not your mailbag. Are we gonna do
Not
that again?
my bag.
Not again.
Not
I mean,
again.
like we did before.
Like we did before.
Well, just now.
No, it's fine.
It's fine.
So, Adrian Malsha also known to the world as Voodoo Fuzz, also known to the world as Dr. Fuzz.
Who
wrote
Man of the Hat song.
Man of the Hat song, who wrote the song about your tit fur that you are wearing tonight.
Yep.
He's walking through the door now with his own China plate. And if you don't know what I mean, that's company like the mates. I've done the games at company, he's had a little push. But he's closed up lovely, he's clearly fixed the dosh. Archie Wallace has got a brand new hat. The games are thinking fucker, they all want one like that. Archie Wallace, although we love your hat, the man's part of our day, he says he wants it back. To 200 shows ago, and now he gets to see Jim across his camera phone. There's not much of a bonnet up on his loaf of bread, and so he's got a tip bar he puts on there instead. Archie Wallace has got a brand new hat. The geeks are thinking fucker, they all want one like that. Archie Wallace, although we love your hat, the man's part of our day, he says he wants it back. Archie Wallace has got a brand new hat. The games are thinking fucker, they all want one like that. Archie Wallace, although we love your hat, the man's brought to my day, he says he wants it back now. Archie Wallace has got a brand new hat. The games are thinking fucker, they all want one like that. Archie Wallace, although we love your hat, the man's brought to my day, he says he wants it back.
The subject line to his email to us is tea, gravy, and missing milk. That subject line pretty much sums up the usual diner trip. Greetings, John and Jim from the UK. Here's something for you to empty from your sack, John.
He's on the same wavelength.
He's going on the same wavelength with the whole mailbag testicles. Just wanted to congratulate you both on your 7th year anniversary and to say just how much I enjoy your weekly ramblings. I agree with John Wallace and feel it should just be the pair of you. It feels so much more relaxed that way. When did John say that? Was that a comment? No, I know, but I thought he said it to us. I didn't realize I'd announced that on the show.
Maybe he put it in a comment.
Maybe he tweeted it or something?
Yeah, maybe.
Is Adrian Malsha, is he stalking us so he knows absolutely everything about us? Which I'm absolutely fine with, because there's really nothing to know about us. He said it should just always be the pair of us. I enjoy the other excursions, but you just can't beat the chemistry between two old friends. It's never less than laugh out loud funny.
Aww.
I would actually disagree with that. It's quite often a lot substantially less than laugh out loud funny. But anyway, he says, by the way, is it odd to say that I'm always extraordinarily interested in the menu and your choices? Well, not you, John. You always have ham, eggs over easy with fries and gravy. Actually, I don't. I don't have gravy when I'm having ham, egg, and fries. But I do have gravy on fries when I have burgers and when I have shrimp, which is equally weird.
You used to get the gravy fries, and I used to better snack on a few.
Right. Well, I used to eat burgers more, and I often find in the evenings now a burger is a little heavy for me.
Oh dear, we are getting old.
We are getting old. Anyway, he says, not you, John. You always have ham, eggs over easy with fries and gravy. But Jim unerringly manages to choose the most bizarre offerings. A chili omelette, I ask you.
It was really good.
I know.
Honestly.
I can't join you at the diner, but I do now make a point of trying to watch your movie choice beforehand. That way I can sort of feel I can join in more. Sometimes I get caught out. I found Ganja and Hess interminable, but
us too, but we didn't want to leave the cinema.
Yeah, and also we didn't really want to be rude about something. I think I explained in the episode, but we didn't really want to be rude about a film that was probably not made for us, to be fair.
That's true.
But the recent older gems, Hard Times and On Dangerous Ground, were both bloody brilliant.
Oh, aces.
I doubt I would have watched Black Panther unless I saw you were reviewing it. Sadly, I missed Jim's views, but I bet he has a theory or two. Caught Hurricane Heist, the Hurricane Heist, enjoyed the heck out of that too. Doubt I ever would have found it without you guys. So, some advice to my fellow AMD fans. If you don't already, try to do the same and see the movie first if you can. Like a lot of us at the moment, life doesn't always seem that great, but you two guys never fail to lift the spirits.
Oh, that's great.
The amount of work that goes into this clearly shows the regular... Oh, wait a minute. The amount of work that goes into this clearly shows the regular updates on the website, weekly episodes, comedy sketches, and original songs. Talking of which, you wanted to know some standout moments.
Cool.
The Tommy Lech comedy sketch from episode 202 just hits me every time with his own unique spin on the classics. Sticky Taco Hands from the Almost Naked album is a heart-achingly beautiful piece of musical poetry. Fewer laughs in that one.
That's a good one.
The male sax song goes without saying.
Yeah.
Favorite episode is episode 240, numerous Neeson family impressions doing the review of The Commuter, What's Not to Love.
Oh yeah, that was a fun one.
Anyway, keep on doing what you do, the pair of you, it's outstanding. Kindest wishes from Old Blighty. By the way, Jim, English breakfast tea, we just call it tea here, mate, and it always comes with milk.
I know, it drives me bonkers that I have to... But actually, they've been giving me milk a lot more recently, but for ages, when I first started
Well, it's
ordering
because you're known, mate. It's
they
because
bring
you're
me...
known
That's
now.
I'm a face.
You're known.
I'm a face.
He's a face.
I'm a face around these parts.
Jim Wallace, he's known in all five...
Get the milk ready. Better get the milk ready.
He's known in all 5 boroughs.
But yeah, they would just bring out like tea. Even when they would ask for it with milk, they would
Yeah.
just bring out tea and then I'd go, no, I need milk. And then they bring me half an hour.
Well, there is an explanation. A lot of the Polish, Greek, Russian, Eastern Europe countries, a lot of which have a large amount of immigration here to the US, or have done, certainly within the diner trade. But I feel like they have it more with either fruit jam or honey or whatever in the tea.
Right.
Like I remember when I was first served tea by a relative of a friend of mine in the US, and instead of giving me sugar or milk, they gave me like a little dob of honey on a plate. And I was like, I don't know what to do with that. So anyway, thanks ever so much, Voodoo Fuzz, Adrian, for sending in that email. And we would love to encourage all people to write to us, just like we've been encouraging Patreon, and it's actually been paying off, literally. It's been paying off because people have been supporting us on
And we're very,
Patreon.
very grateful because Movie Pass looks like it's dead.
Well, it looks like
means-
it's dying.
Which means
We're going to have to start spending $20 every time we go to the cinema again.
our expenses. I mean, nobody gives a shit about my expenses, but your expenses are about to get substantially high. And you already pay a lot for the website anyway,
Right.
and it costs us like
The hosting and everything.
when it goes back now, it's going to cost us what? About $30 to $40 every week to see a movie and go to the diner.
Yeah.
So that's, if we do it every week, that's, my maths just fell to pieces, $160.
Yeah. At least.
$150
$160 a month.
a month.
Yeah.
Fucking hell, that's a lot of money.
Yes. So anyway, thank you ever so much for writing in, and we would like to encourage all people to write in at either aftermoviediner@gmail.com or hello@aftermoviediner, which will equally get to us, hello@aftermoviediner.com or aftermoviediner@gmail.com. But write to us, and we will read out your emails, and we
Yes.
will love getting them. And insult us or be nice, do either, we don't
Yeah,
mind.
that's fine.
Whatever spurs on conversation, because I love a good email that spurs on conversation. So thanks ever so much. Keep up what you're doing, Adrian, with all your writing in and support of the diner.
We're
It's
very
fantastic.
grateful, thank you.
And another huge thank you to our recent Patreon supporters, and I hope you enjoy this Hammer Horror Month. Good day, good morning, good evening, goodbye, and welcome to this episode of the After Movie Diner.
Episode.
Which takes place
Not
on
another episode.
Not another episode.
Not next week's. Not last week's. This episode.
God, you have to stick your 2 pence in.
I
don't
do.
you?
Oh, it's all I've got. It's my,
It's all-
my
all-
tuppence.
your-
My tuppence worth of talent is all I have to
Your
contribute.
tuppence is all you got. We are recording this evening on a very special night. It is Manhattan Henge, which apparently is a
I was
thing.
excited. There's nothing wrong with me being excited.
You're
about
excited by a
Thank you.
henge.
I am excited by. Listen, I'm not the only person on planet Earth, right?
There were
who's
plenty of
excited
people
by
out there on
henges.
14th Street.
Some people are
taking-
so excited by henges, they drag huge blocks of stone
around.
hundreds of miles
Yeah.
just to make their own henge.
Right.
That's how much people love henges.
Right.
So I think me looking at another henge going, oh, that's nice, is actually pretty low down on
Now-
the henge enthusiasm scale.
Well, true. But let me ask you this:
Ask away, mate.
do you think
Yes.
that Manhattan was built purposefully
As a henge,
so that?
I do. I do.
Or do you think it is merely that it is on a grid system, and therefore, because the sun goes down, that it is hardly surprising that it would go down between two buildings at a certain point?
Yeah, but things don't have to be surprising to be nice.
No, I'm not. I never doubted the niceness of the community spirit.
Right. So what's the
of a henge.
what's the
I'm
doubt?
saying-
Where's the doubt coming?
No, I'm saying that they didn't build the city specifically. I'm just saying it's on a grid system.
I
and
know,
therefore-
so?
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Did you think I was saying that Manhattan was built deliberately as a henge
Yeah,
in order that once a year people could nearly get run over by taxis
yeah,
while taking pictures
yeah,
of a not terribly impressive sunset?
yeah.
I wasn't,
That's what I thought you were saying.
but I might have said it.
Well,
I
that's
might
what I
have said
thought.
it.
But that's what I thought you were saying.
I wasn't, no.
Well, I thought that's what you were saying.
No.
I've got that cyst again on my over by my ear.
Cyst? Do you mean spot?
Well, it's not a spot though. It's like it's a reoccurring like pustule.
Cool.
Anyway, that'll be edited out.
No, leave that one in, because I mean, the trouble is that's now ruined my menu. Because now the only word I can see written everywhere is pustule.
Pustule.
This homemade pustule, pustule salad,
Oh, shut up.
Norwegian salmon pustule, pustule niçoise.
Have you tried the pustule niçoise?
Have you tried pustule niçoise? I might get a good stuffed burger, I suppose.
I don't want a burger though.
All right, we don't have a burger. Can I get a cup of English breakfast tea with milk? Thank you very much. I think he's all right.
I'm good with water. Thank you, Chief.
Whoa.
So why don't you tell the listening mennies what we just went to see and why and things. Tell them things.
All right, well, we went and saw... good, we're not quite ready yet. We're still thinking. Thank you very much, thank you. Do you know what you want?
Weirdly, I want the bolognese. Is that weird? That's a bit weird, isn't
No,
it?
that's not weird. I don't think that's weird. Where's the bolognese?
It's expensive though. It's like $18.
Oh, we're not going halves if you're getting an $18 pasta. I'll tell you that much for now.
Well, do they have a cheaper pasta?
I don't know. Do they have a cheap pasta section?
Not really.
Do they have a pasta for tramps page? What's alfalfa sprouts? Kind of interested in the California burger. It's got avocados, alfalfa sprouts, bacon and Swiss cheese, and ranch dressing. It just sounds like...
I want bolognese, but I don't want it to be almost $20.
I'm afraid that
I
might
want
just
like
be
a
the way that it
$10
is.
bowl of bolognese. I want like a child's portion of bolognese.
Maybe they have... Do they have that?
No, but then they'll look at me if I go the child's menu. They'll go, no, sir. They won't let me have it.
I'm so tempted by this California burger.
Oh,
Maybe I should
fuck
get
it,
the good stuff.
I'll have ham, egg, and chips. So anyway, you didn't say what we went to see, what we're doing.
Sorry,
here,
I'm going to
or
get a good stuffed burger.
All right,
That's
then.
what I'm going to get.
All right, then.
We went and saw a Hammer film
Right.
from 1950 something, 6 I think.
Is it from 1956?
I think so.
It's an early one, but
It's very early.
But weirdly not in colour.
Yeah, well,
Even
too
though the
early
mummy-
for colour, mate.
No, but the Mummy was in colour, and that was their first one.
No. The Mummy was after their first was Curse of Frankenstein. But before that, there was X the Unknown, the Quatermass Experiment.
Right, and they're all black and white.
Abominable Snowman, and they're all black and white. Yeah. Curse of Frankenstein was the first.
So
like,
this is
horror
sort
film.
of like, right?
It's almost like pre.
But it's Curse of Frankenstein
Curse of
black and
Frankenstein's
white.
57. I
It's
think.
Curse of Frankenstein black and white.
No, it's in colour. But it's Curse of Frankenstein's 57.
Right.
Hello.
Hi.
Can I get the good stuffed burger? well done. Just on its own, not deluxe.
Good burger, well done. Okay, not deluxe.
No deluxe, thank you.
Yes, could I get 2 eggs over easy, ham, and French fries, please?
Gravy with the French fries?
Sorry?
Gravy with the French fries?
With ham and eggs?
I don't know.
No. Alright. He's weird. Don't worry about him.
Thank you very much.
Why would I have gravy with a French fry?
No, I thought we could
Ham
share.
and eggs?
I was going to share. I was going to steal some of your chips.
Well, we didn't have a pre-ordering negotiation of how many fries I had to give up to your massive goal.
Yeah, fair point.
We didn't have that discussion.
We did not have that
So
discussion.
for you, in front of our server, to embarrass me thus,
I embarrassed you by asking if you were going to have gravy.
right, because you weren't asking, was I going to have gravy? You were asking, can you order gravy
No.
so I can have some of your fries and nick
No, normally when you order fries, you order gravy because you like dipping the fries
Not
in the gravy.
with ham and
then
eggs,
I
I don't.
borrow a few fries.
Not with ham and eggs, I don't.
All right.
Who has eggs and gravy? Are you mad?
I don't know. People have had eggs and gravy in the past.
Who? Name 3.
I don't know. Geniuses. It sounds really good to me.
What?
Do you think gravy over eggs sounds good?
If it's white gravy, if it's Southern style white gravy, sure.
I don't know.
But not
brown.
meat gravy
Why
over
not meat?
eggs.
Well, you're having meat with the eggs.
I'm
You're having
having
ham and eggs.
breakfast,
That's
you
meat.
But it's ham, isn't it?
It's still meat.
Right, but when was the last time you had big, thick, brown, meaty gravy over ham?
Well, actually, I have. Well, like gammon. I've had it over gammon.
No, but you don't. Over gammon, you have that like hollandaisey white sauce thing.
No, I've had thick brown
No,
gravy
you don't
over
have
gammon.
brown gravy over gammon. That's mad. That's mad.
Look, do you want to know what I have?
What?
I have whatever people put in front of me, and I'm glad about
Glad
it.
about it. Yeah. White people, first world problems.
Yeah.
You don't have gammon with gravy. People in the
listen.
third world are like, we'd be happy
Yeah.
just
with
with
gravy.
With gravy. Don't even need the ham.
No.
The ham would be extra.
The ham
in
would be
fact,
great.
In fact, if we had the ham, we wouldn't know what to do with it.
Yeah, we wouldn't even know, we wouldn't even need the gravy if we had
Probably
ham.
kill us because the ham would be too much food. It would be more food than we'd ever seen, and we'd die. That was a weird, morbid place to go. So yes, Manhattan Henge. It's all.
No, we were talking about Abominable Snowman.
I've debunked it.
Yeah, it's been
I've
bunked.
debunked. It was
It was
bunked.
previously bunked.
Now I've debunked
You've
it.
taken the bunk away.
I've removed.
You've removed
Someone's
the bunk.
walked
You're a
up to me and
bunk
gone,
remover.
this Manhattan Henge is covered in bunk, and I've gone. Let me fix that for you.
You've flicked the bits of bunk.
But much like Manhattan Henge being
Here we go.
being a load
Strap
of
yourselves
old,
in.
load of old
Here we go.
twat.
Here it is.
A waffle. So is the abominable snowman.
He didn't like it.
No. I'm saying so in reality is the
Oh, I see.
the myth of
I see.
El Yeti, or the shriek of the mutilated, or the abominable snowman, or Bigfoot's colder cousin.
Where are you getting these names from? He's making them up, or are these actual like Yeti names?
They're like Bigfoot, isn't it? Big Yeti's like Bigfoot of the north.
Yeah,
He's
that's
like
the snow.
he's like Bigfoot, only he's from the north. Only he does like
Hey up, cushion's coming.
he does like to sit around and talk about how hard done by it's been. While wearing a cloth cap and cradling a whipping.
Bigfoot, they don't know they're living, they don't know they're born.
How do you know that it's a Yeti or it's a Bigfoot? Well, it's quite simple. A Yeti will leave cloth caps lying around the place, whereas of course
They only eat whippets.
So
Bollocks!
what have you done? Have you destroyed your tea bag?
No, I didn't destroy it, it just
Yeah.
came apart. I might ask another one. I'm not might ask, I will ask.
Yeah, that seems odd. That seems like it might be an old tea bag.
Yes.
New bag sometimes.
Right, I will ask him. Is this on there? Is this on there?
It's a lady.
Yeah, all right. I'll grab her when she comes back.
So anyway, this was pre. Okay, so let me ask you, because you're the hammer expert.
I'm an expert, I know stuff.
What do you mean you're not an expert? You're more of an expert than I am.
Well, I've seen a lot.
Well, I mean, you've seen a lot. We won't reveal how or why.
All I know is that
clues scattered amongst the
They
ages.
were making like
But what is considered I think X the Experiment is considered like the first, which is Quatermass, which is the first like Hammer horror in quotations.
no, the
right?
first Hammer horror, like as people understand it, is Curse of Frankenstein, because that's like because Quatermass Experiment, X the Unknown, stuff like that. They were more like
And Curse of
sci-fi
Frankenstein was
thrillers.
before the Mummy. I thought the Mummy was the
No, the Mummy's 58 or 59, or the Mummy's after.
Oh, okay.
Because like Christopher Lee's got a bigger role in the Mummy. He's only the monster. I mean, the monster's like a big role, but that was his first big role for Hammer was Frankenstein, the monster.
So they've done Quatermass at this point,
Yes.
but they haven't quite gone to the Universal horrors yet.
No.
Because the Abominable Snowman.
Well, this is-
So who do we know who like came up with the myth of that? Or
What, like the whole Abominable Snowman myth?
yeah, the whole like
know.
Yeti myth. Like when was the? Because this was based on a play.
No, when they say, so that's a bit misleading. When they say based on the play, it was based on, they used to do, early TV
Right.
in England, right,
Yeah.
was mostly live. Like
Right,
Peter
right.
Cushing in 1984.
Yeah, and
That's
the
like a
Sherlock
play.
Holmeses and stuff.
Right, right.
Right,
But
right.
they were done live
With
on
with
sets.
Donald Pleasance or Mitt if you were German. Donald Pleasance.
Donald Pleasant.
Yeah.
Well, there was an Abominable Snowman like play for TV.
Right.
That Cushing was also in.
Right.
That was written by the same guy that wrote Quatermass Experiment.
Right.
Nigel Neal.
Yeah.
I think it was for the I'm assuming it was for the BBC. There was nobody else around.
Right. The
And
Beeb was the only game in town.
the only game in town.
Well, there was
And-
rediffusion, but I think that wasn't till later.
Okay. Well, Hammer then turned the play into a movie, but I think it was more. I mean, I don't know. I guess it kind of. They probably didn't think of themselves as like horror at that point. They were doing a lot of different things. They were doing like crime stuff and
Right.
pirate movies and shit like that.
Right.
There you go then.
Any chance I could get another
tea bag
My
split.
tea bag broke.
I have to double charge you then.
Thank you very much. Thank you for being understanding.
Okay, I was going to say
Thank
we were going to riot as Englishmen if we were to be double charged for tea. That would have been a real issue.
Thank you very much. Yeah, sorry, crack on.
No, you were saying so it was written for TV and then they remade it as a movie.
And they made it as a movie, and they slightly changed it a bit, I think.
But it definitely plays out like
Yeah, it plays like a movie. It's a proper movie
very
and everything.
it's very wordy and there's a lot of it's sort of a very early form of the humans are the real monster, mate, kind of
Yeah.
storytelling, right?
Yeah,
Which would
basically.
become more utilized in like zombie stories and stuff later on. You know, where really the humans are the bad guys, or certainly in the Romero zombies.
A lot of the ones around this time, anyway, Quatermass Experiment and X the Unknown have similar
There are a lot of
kind of things.
paranoia and
about America, particularly. Thank you very much. That's very kind. Thank you. There's a lot of.
now don't stir this one so much.
I know. The thing is, when she said double charge, I was like, well, that is fair. I did break the bag. Do you know what I mean? With my over-exuberant stirring. So, so Quatermass Experiment, X the Unknown, they've all got, like, there's always like, what are the Americans up to? What are they doing, these
Right.
Americans? What's the world going to be like
Right. When
now that the Americans are running things? Because we're not anymore.
Right.
Is like the unspoken thing going on in these movies.
And so the whole American Tom Friend character in The Abominable Snowman, who's planning to take the snowman back and essentially like parade him around like Mickey Mouse,
Right.
that's what they think of America.
But again, it's not that. Okay, so while I was watching it, I couldn't figure out if America has changed me. Because I get the feeling that if you were English watching it in
The 50s.
the 50s, and although this did clearly get an American release, because it had like a release by 20th century whatever at the bottom.
Yeah, this would be the American print. Most
Right.
Hammer films did, whether it was through Warner Brothers or through who was their other partner over here? They were released. Like the annoying thing about the States is that while in the UK Hammer was released all as Hammer, so they can kind of do box sets and various other stuff. Over here, they're released by multiple different studios, so now we're in the age of recorded media. A myriad of different people like own rights to different ones. So I think almost every Blu-ray and DVD distributor at the moment has put out one Hammer and or Hammer tangential movie. Synapse has done it. Mill Creek has a bunch of the lesser known ones. I want to say that Scream Factory put out a couple.
There's a lot of them. I think it's either Warner Brothers or Columbia, maybe. That like they're kind of their like
the Warner Archive.
Reissue. The Warner Archive. That's it. Yeah. But when I was watching it, I was thinking, well, I quite admire the idea of wanting to go find the abominable snowman, and instead of just writing about him in a book or whatever, like taking him around and showing him to people and putting him on TV and saying this is, and even though it turns out like
he's a rotter,
it doesn't turn out so well there. But I think I genuinely think he means well. And Cushing and him, although they quarrel, they make up pretty quickly and they put down their quarrels to, sorry, I'm tired, or it's the altitude, or whatever.
Right. So
it's
anyway,
not really fundamental philosophical thing.
Anyway, let's skip back. Do you want to do your brief synopsis or?
So the whole film takes place on the top of the mountain.
In Tibet, in the Himalayas.
In the Himalayas. And it starts in a monastery where Peter Cushing and his wife and his mate Foxy with his cricket sweater.
Don't worry, my dear, I'll look after you.
And his hilarious dislike of foreigners. Are on an expedition to find interesting plants. But it turns out Cushing has an ulterior motive, because
which the llama has twigged.
The llama has twigged because he sees and knows all. Does your llama?
Yeah.
And he
does your weirdly German llama.
He was weirdly German.
Weirdly German.
Weirdly German.
It was actually played by Jeff Weirdly German.
Yeah,
That's who played it.
Adolf German for hire.
Yeah.
So Adolf German for hire guesses that Cushing is up there for an ulterior motive, which is that Cushing is a bit of an expert, it turns out, on taking wild guesses as to what the Yeti is. Right? Yeah. They're like, he's our scientific expert. For no reason, other than he goes, well, they live on a mountain, so they probably eat small mammals, and they've got big feet, and we know that because of the footprints. You go, well, I could guess, and he got a book out of this somehow. He managed to squeeze an entire book out of. They got big feet, and they presumably eat things, or that would be that.
And they're probably, based on their foot size, quite tall, tall-ish. And then there's some other hokum about, well, you know what? Back in the day, in India, some monkeys went one way, other monkeys became humans. What if a third lot of monkeys just went up a mountain somewhere?
That is pretty much his theory.
That is his theory.
So it turns out that an American expedition is coming up the mountain, or coming round the mountain, as it were.
Right.
And Cushing's hoping to join up with them to go and look for the abominable snowman in the Himalayas.
Right.
Hence the title of the movie, The Abominable Snowman in the Himalayas. And his wife's not too happy about this, but despite the fact that Cushing...
well, she's not happy about it because Cushing's had a previous mountaineering accident.
Yes.
Although seems to bound about the place with nary an ache or twinge. So
it's not a thing.
I mean, you put down a bag and made a noise. Cushing's bouncing around the Mount Everest as if he was Sir Edmund Hillary.
Yeah. So, despite the fact that the wife says, I'm not happy, Cushing allays her feelings by saying, don't worry, everything will be fine.
Don't worry, it's the 1950s in England, you're not allowed to divorce me, so I'm going to go off and do whatever I want.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Subtext. So, they go off up the mountain, and the party consists of Peter Cushing as expert scientist,
Yeah. Tom Friend.
the American, who's actually really good.
Really
I don't
good.
know who he is, but he's really, really good. He's all at the same time. He's kind of bullish and arrogant, but at the same time passionate and charismatic and likable. He's really, really
He's
good.
a bit like Brian Dennehy meets John Thorne.
Yeah.
He's got a Dennehy, but also a Thorish quality to him.
Brian Dennehy is Inspector Morse. So,
And you know what? If they did an American version of Morse, Dennehy would be marvellous.
that'd be brilliant. Oh, why didn't somebody just go ahead and make that? Now I'm really sad that nobody made Dennehy as Morse.
Dennehy as
because
Morse.
if only for like the raised eyebrows and dropped crumpets.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Of England, when they were like Dennehy, instead of driving a red Jaguar, instead he, I don't know, what would he drive, like a beaten up Cadillac or something?
Yeah, or a Corvette or something, or a
Yeah. And, like,
Chevy.
beats the shit out of suspects while listening to the violin or something. Anyway,
What's weird is they did an American version of Cracker
well, that I can see.
called Fitz, but they didn't do an American version of Morse, which would have been amazing because you go to one of the Ivy League colleges, you have Dennehy flapping around in his brown jackets, being brown jackety all over people. You get, who would be his Lewis? Who would be Dennehy's sidekick?
What are we talking about in the 90s?
No, I mean, maybe 2000s. Dennehy would have to be a little older, so I mean, 90s, 2000s, sure.
All right. Dennehy's Lewis would be
Gutenberg. What about
Kevin
this?
J. O'Connor.
What about this? Oh, did you say Kevin O'Connor or whatever his name is? The weird looking one. He would work, but what about this? Dennehy and Peter Weller. No, because
We have to
Weller's,
make Lewis a bigger part.
Weller's too sardonic
Yeah.
to be Lewis. He needs to be like fresh-faced and...
Weller could be the American Morse,
What, I mean,
and
Well-
Dennehy could be his Lewis.
No.
Yeah, he
no,
could
no,
be an
no,
older.
No, Dennehy's too grumpy and no.
No, I tell you what you need. You need a show, and it would have to be in the 90s, obviously. But what it is that there's like a series of murders, right, in like the bebop community, right, in the 50s.
In the 50s.
And Peter Weller
Yeah.
is like, he's like an NYPD or whatever consultant.
Yeah.
And Dennehy is the cop.
Yeah.
And Weller is
Is the
his like
consultant.
jazz consultant,
The jazz consultant.
the jazz detective.
What's funny is there is actually two novels which I've read that I actually bought the first time I was ever in New York from the Strand bookshop, which were beatnik detective stories from like the early 60s set in Greenwich Village.
So that's your show. Dennehy is tough as nails, 60s
And it's
cop.
just called Jazz Cop.
The jazz detective,
The Bebop Detective.
the bebop murders. I quite like the jazz cop's not bad.
Jazz Cop.
Jazz cop is okay. So jazz cop.
Peter Weller is
Jazz cop.
Jazz Cop. Anyway.
Anyway, sorry.
Go back to.
So anyway, so in the
Abominable-Snowman.
party going up the mountains are Peter Cushing is a scientist, Friend is the American expedition leader, then the bloke that, as you rightly pointed out, was M in the first couple of Bond movies.
No, he's M later on. Bernard Lee is M in the first.
Oh, that's
two.
right. He takes over from
He
him.
takes
Yes, yeah,
over because he's M right up until License to Kill.
Oh, right.
He's M in the one where Dalton goes, I'm breaking away and I'm running away because he's in that house with all the cats in like South America. M is that actor.
Yeah.
And Dalton like runs out the gate, and even though like he's had his license revoked, M goes like Godspeed 007.
That's what I remember.
Yeah.
So anyway, and he is playing an American, and his idea of being American is, well, Americans are loud and annoying, right? So if I'm loud and annoying throughout the whole movie, that's basically American, which does sort of work in
Is
a
he
weird
being
way.
American?
Yeah, he's trying to be American.
Are they all American? I thought it was just Tom Friend who is American.
No, Tom Friend is American. M is pretending to be American.
Is he?
The other bloke is pretending to be Scottish, believe it or not.
Right.
McNee, because it's called McNee, which is a fucking weird name. But McNee, because Cushing just... I think Cushing chose that name because Cushing really loves grabbing that guy, shaking him and going, McNee! McNee! Over and over again. And their guide, whose name I've forgotten, like Cabbage.
Cusack.
John Cusack.
John Cusack.
John Cusack is their guide.
The Tibetan John Cusack.
Who tries to persuade them that anyway, so they go up hunting for the Yeti, and the first they come across something, they capture something.
A mountain
The John
monkey.
John Cusack swears blind is
And it's clearly a very
a
small
Yeti, and
monkey.
it's obviously a monkey. To which Cushing goes, no, that's a monkey, mate. What you've got there is a monkey.
Yeah.
So they go higher.
But that's where we find out that old Tommy Friend had previously passed off two mentally handicapped children as wolf children.
Children raised by wolves.
Children's raised by wolves. So he's a bit of a carny, bit of a...
And that sounds like a real thing to me. Like that sounds like something that happened.
Of course. Yeah. The like, Victorian freak shows and stuff. I'm sure most of them were just,
Good point.
sadly handy-capable children.
So, they basically keep going higher up the mountain, and they sort of find what they're looking for, but basically,
Well, the man who would be M is a trapper,
yeah.
but he freaks out and shoots one instead.
Well, without getting to like too much, blow-by-blow detail.
Because people
basically-
should watch it.
Yeah. Yes, they should. People should. They instead of being like torn to pieces by a monster, they don't get like cut off and then they're all murdered by the monster. What happens is they enter the monster's world, this harsh, forbidding environment, which basically drives them all mad. They all go mad. They hear things and they see things, and there's sort of an intimation that maybe the Yetis are doing it, but it doesn't. It seems to me more like man is pushed to the edge in this pursuit. He's pushed to the edge of his own like capabilities and goes mad and dies.
Yeah.
Like one of them dies by accident, one of them dies of fright,
One of them dies in an avalanche after firing his gun one too many times.
and Cushing should die, but is basically rescued by the Yetis.
Right. But what's interesting is there's weird leaps where, like out of nowhere, Cushing goes, well, people have said that they have the ability to read minds. And I'm like, well, I've never heard that. I've heard, like, I'll make the leap that there is a ape-like humanoid creature living amongst some mountains. I'll go there. I'll go there every tea time if you like. But what I won't believe is they are some sort of, mystical, brain-reading, voice-throwing...
Well, it feels to me, in that particular case, it feels to me like that's probably added on by a producer.
Right.
In other words, that it probably was, because it certainly, it reads, that was a big one.
Say that again?
I'll have some water first.
Sure. People will... If I left that in, people would think you had died halfway through a sentence.
I wonder how I feel about that being my last sentence as well. I think I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, you're talking about peter-cushing.
How did you die? I was halfway through discussing a little-known Peter Cushing movie from the 1950s.
Oh, it's little known.
Eating a burger with a friend, and I passed away.
Passed away.
If you told me that,
quite quietly. Well, not quietly, actually. He made an outrageously loud inhalation of burp.
So, it certainly plays out like they are driven mad and they can't hack the environment. But there's this thing of like, they can read minds and he's connected to them because in the producer's mind, you can't leave it airy-fairy. You have to give the audience like, well, what happened? You know, why did what happened happen? And so they give a thing of like, there's this idea that maybe the Yeti's done it, and the Yetis can read minds and affect people and all that. In other words, everything from climbing off and going mad and shooting the gun or dying of fright is all caused by their ability to like affect people's minds.
Yeah, but I don't think like.
But I don't think anybody else is thinking that except whoever's idea that was.
Yeah, no,
You know
because first of all, Cushing says throughout the movie, the Yetis don't do anything. Like the Yetis might actually be nice, and we might be actually invading their area.
Right.
Like,
I did like that whole
we're
thing.
the enemy.
I did like that whole thing of that they're just like waiting for us to die.
Right.
Like,
well, they want us to go away because they want to come in and get their fallen brethren.
No. I just mean, well, I mean that's certainly true in terms of that to me. But when Cushing's talking about just waiting, because they talk about the H-bomb and whatnot, they're waiting for like, look, again, the unspoken thing in the late 1950s is this is all going to end in a blaze of fire and, you know, hell damnation soon.
And it's funny how 60, 70 years later we feel the same way.
Yeah, we do feel the same way. But the idea that there's this wise, noble creature that's like kept itself hidden away is just like basically sitting on top of the world, right, in the highest point imaginable, waiting for us all to like blow each other to smithereens, so they can come down and get warm, presumably.
Right.
You know, have a wander around.
Yeah.
I mean, a nuclear winter is pretty warm, but
yeah, shave their shoulders and maybe go to Florida.
Hey, you know, monsters deserve. But that's the thing, like.
Well, that's the other thing is they're not monsters. Yeah, man is the monster.
The After Movie Diner with John Cross will return right after this.
What's up, guys? Be sure to check out Now That I'm Older on the Rogue Intel Podcast Network. Me and Kenny sit down and talk about how getting older sucks, but can be awesome at the exact same time. We also look at pop culture, review a few movies, share some personal stories, and just basically poke fun at the world around us. Be sure to check out Now That I'm Older on the Rogue Intel Podcast Network.
Somebody put this Mum for Men in my desk. How should I take it?
Daily. Mum for Men rolls in extra protection that really works.
It works!
Here's what some people are saying about the Projection Booth podcast.
This podcast takes no shortcut in producing outstanding content. How they haven't become more widely recognized is beyond me.
I love this show. Smart commentary, in-depth interviews, and great production.
It's obvious how serious these guys take their podcast and bring that next level of professionalism that anyone would be hard-pressed to match.
The Projection Booth Podcast, with new episodes available every week at projectionboothpodcast.com.
Oh. You charmer. How'd you do it? Apart from my magnetic personality, I think it was the suit that got her going. Now, I'm not sure whether it was the lapels, the very fitted jacket, or the flare trousers, really. Now, if it's a stroll by the river in the morning, it could very well be the car-down blazer. With, of course, the off-white raincoat in case of emergency. Or if it's back to lunch with her mummy and daddy, it's all down to the safari suit with a sexy collar. Of course, she thinks I'm loaded. Me, loaded. She doesn't know yet that I go to John Temple and get up to 2 years to pay. Around the same price weekly as 3 or 4 pints. Sandra, darling, be ready for me. I might break loose tomorrow.
Good morning. Are you single and ready to mingle? well, you're in luck, because you can find your match by listening to the greatest podcast on earth, and it's
called the Poop Culture Podcast.
Visit us at www.poopculture.com.
Poop culture, yeah, poop culture, yeah, it's a poop culture. Poop culture, it's culture shock. Listen in and I'll make the world rock. Laugh and cry and cringe and buzz with a bad crowd. Poop culture, yeah, poop culture. Poop culture, yeah, it's the poop culture.
Welcome to Frankie's Nightclub Ruffo, where Friday night and Sunday night are the nights for discos, where you can disco the night away to the best disco sounds around. Saturday night, and Frankie's opens the door to Ireland's best live bands, with great sounds from different bands weekly. So for a great night out, come to Frankie's Nightclub Ruffo, where fun is our speciality.
You're listening to the sweet sounds of the After Movie Diner. Support us at patreon.com/After Movie Diner. Or I'll punch you in the teats. Rate and review us on iTunes, Earthling.
The way it's set up is that it's not that they're benevolent, but that they are...
Thank you very much.
That they are wise. Sure. Thank you. That they are wise, and that they are not just simply, at no point does anyone get eaten by the Yeti or torn up by the Yeti or attacked by, they're not violent in that regard.
No.
When attacked, they will fight back, but...
So let me ask you a question then. I mean, I've seen a few of these, obviously. You've
been around the block, mate. You've been around the block.
I've been around the proverbial block. I've seen quite a few of the early Hammer, 1950s movies.
Right.
So what did you think of it?
I liked it. I want to know where they filmed it.
I'm pretty sure they filmed it in Snowdonia.
Okay.
And the monks knocking around in the temple were blokes they could find from local Chinese restaurants.
Okay.
And I think the set, the monastery was from another movie, like an abandoned movie. I'm not sure what the movie was, but it was
Because the first thing to be said about it...
I think they built the set with something else, and then the funding fell through, so they made this instead.
Is for a 1950s...
It is pretty evocative,
black and white British movie. It looks the beam.
It does, right?
And even the shot on location, marching through the mountains, mixed with them in a studio marching through polystyrene or whatever it is, matches
it works pretty well.
Pretty well.
Yeah. It certainly matches well enough that you feel transported.
Oh, completely. Yeah, no. The suspension of disbelief is very easy. Yeah. Very easy. You're there, you're in their thing, you got Cushing, the snowstorm is done really well, the atmosphere is done really well, the mountains are great. I feel like in terms of production value, considering that as Hammer goes on, they're almost a little more B-movie-ish.
Yeah.
This, to me, especially in the black and white, which I'm sure covers up a multitude of sins, this stands toe-to-toe with, I don't know, any of the other movies that come out in the 40s and 50s. It certainly doesn't smack to me of like a B-movie like Them or whatever. It feels like a real movie. It feels... I think the acting, as always in these things, is spot on.
Cushing is great. Right?
Cushing's,
so
I mean...
good.
When
he gets given he only gets a couple of speeches, but when he's just giving his speech, he's freaking mesmerizing.
He really is, and he's good because he doesn't play him. It would be difficult because he obviously goes on in his career to play doctors and Sherlock Holmes and know-it-alls and whatever. What's actually really startling about Cushing, considering it's not like he does accents or changes his hair or whatever, is that this character, next to Frankenstein, next to the Doctor and the Mummy, next to Sherlock Holmes, are all completely different. Like they all have their own unique personalities, even though it's still very much Cushing. And that's kind of glorious, like the way he does that.
Yeah.
Because you often feel like, a lot is talked about Olivier or Gielgud or whatever, these guys. And I certainly haven't seen enough of their stuff to really put them side by side. But you want to throw, like, Cushing, certainly Cushing, up there. There's an argument to be made that Lee is always kind of Lee.
I don't know, because, he's...
Although what he does is, and I think looking the way Lee does and having the voice Lee does, it's difficult to really kind of get away from.
That's true.
It's kind of that thing where in Monty Python, if you're going to have an authority figure, get Cleese or Chapman to play it because they're tall and they have the look and da-da-da-da-da. Whereas the younger Oxbridge crowd are more scrappy. And to me, Cushing can do scrappy. You know what I mean? Like even at the beginning of this where, he's wearing a slightly tatty tweedy jacket and he's got his little fingerless gloves on and he's like walking around. Like he looks a bit more ratty and natty and he looks like a botanist who would be up about it looking at plants and stuff. I just mean, not many people would give Cushing the credit to have the range that he has, but he really does.
Well, the thing that amazes me is that he can be like when Lee plays a good guy, like in Devil Rides Out or whatever.
Right.
He's effective because he's like playing against type.
Right.
And he's like, what's great about him in Devil Rides Out, for example, is that here's a guy who is just like naturally quite a terrifying, solid presence, and he is terrifying.
Right.
And to have Christopher Lee be terrified of anything, that's really scary. So that works really well. But Cushing can be somehow like when he's Van Helsing, he's absolutely the good guy.
Right.
And you feel that with every fibre of his being. And when he's Frankenstein, which is more often than not the bad guy,
right,
you feel that too. And his ability to switch between good guy and bad guy, and be as compelling in either one, but either like hooray or boo hiss, depending on
Right, but he plays Frankenstein with the same determination that he plays Van Helsing.
Yeah, but
it's just with Van Helsing, he's not transgressing anything. He's trying to stop transgressions. And with Frankenstein, he's transgressing all over the shop.
What's weird about it, actually, is that...
And whenever you say, like, oi, maybe you shouldn't transgress that, he's like, balls! I'm going to transgress all over the place.
It's a weird, like, he's a very... When he's Frankenstein, he's very selfish.
Right.
And when he's Van Helsing, he's very selfless.
Yeah.
But they are both, I think, both characters anyway, devoted to some nobler idea. Like Van Helsing is about I've been put on this earth to defeat evil.
Right.
And Frankenstein is I've been put on this earth to advance science.
Right.
And and Frankenstein doesn't give a shit about anything except does it advance science? That's all I care about. Does it do that? And Van Helsing is whatever it costs me personally, I will vanquish evil. But he's always saving other people. I think it's in Brides of Dracula, which is like the second Dracula movie. What's great about Van Helsing in Brides of Dracula?
No, it's the third.
No, I think it's the...
No, the second one is Prince of Darkness, because at the beginning of Prince of Darkness, they have the flashback to the end of Horror of Dracula.
No, that's true, they do, but I think Brides of Dracula was the second movie. Lee's not in it.
Right, okay.
It's just Cushing as Van Helsing. But the point about it is that in Brides of Dracula, even when he's not really Dracula, he's like a vampire, whatever guy. It'd be more accurate to call it like Peter Cushing battles another vampire.
Right.
But anyway, when he's got a chance to like get the vampire and put a stop to his evil, or to help out someone in distress who's having a bit of a tough time. He'll help out someone in distress first. He'll like get innocent people out of the way first,
Right.
and then it's such a weird thing because it's like collateral damage in the name of
And what's interesting about
the
this
opposite of Frankenstein
is that
he's got a little bit of it in him because he doesn't care about what his wife thinks. He's a bit obsessed with the whole. You're right.
Yeah, I'm good.
Got a bit of mystery jam. Some of the beard. You probably got some mystery jam on the beard, and then while you were wiping the beard, it went poing.
Yeah, it did. There was a weird poinging noise.
Does it do that? Because you do have like a poingy beard.
Poingy beard.
Yeah, but when he's the scientist, he's got that. Like he ignores his wife. You know, it's his life's
but
work.
he's not mean about ignoring.
No,
his
he's
wife.
not. But I'm just saying
very
that's what I
gentle.
mean. It's a mixture of the two things. He is putting himself in danger, and he is being selfish and going on this expedition. Like he doesn't say, he says nothing. It's not about like, oh, it's for the greater glory of man. It's like this has been my dream, for all these years, and I'm going to go. But then when he's there,
he's also being really decent and trying to help people out.
And he's trying to like save them and look after the guy, and he's the one that survives in the end. And he survives in the end because he's saved by the abominable snowman, snow people. Right. Because presumably one of them might be a lady, right? Saved by the abominable snow lady, and left on a handy. I mean, saved-ish. Like if they hadn't come by, he would be dead.
Right.
But they went. This is as far as we go. This is as far down the mountain as we come. If they come and find you, great. If not, tough tits, Pete. Basically. So he deserves to live clearly, but he deserves to live because he's come to understand that they should be left alone.
Right.
Is what he's come to understand.
Right.
So it's kind of there's a nice thing there. But you're right about Cushing. He has an amazing range. And there's not that many people that can play good guys and bad guys and make them utterly distinctive. And not just relying on charisma.
Right.
Like lots of people like Robert De Niro or whatever can play good guys and bad guys, but it's the same charisma firing both things, and it's the motivations that are different. But Cushing does play them differently.
Right.
And he's just great.
He is great. He's really great. And the only thing that I think bothered me about the screening, and it only happened a couple of times to be fair, but there were a couple of moments where I heard people snigger or chuckle at an effect or something.
Yeah, that's true. Actually,
and I actually thought to myself, actually the effects are pretty good because one thing I think to know going into this movie is that it's not you've got to be aware that it is a low-budget British black and white movie made in the 50s.
It's a TV play that they filmed.
And that what you're not going to get is some big slathery-jawed Yeti going around howling at the moon and ripping people's guts out. And also, even when the monsters do start to show up, you're really only seeing a hand here.
It's quite effective.
An arm there. Yeah, no, completely. And, the lights of the eyes or whatever. You're not seeing any kind of full-blown thing. And what's interesting about that is it's deliberate because of the budget, but it's also deliberate because it's how do we use that to our advantage? And it's kind of sad, therefore, that in one scene where you see the Yeti's hand come under the tent, and I actually thought wow, that's actually a pretty cool hand and stuff. Someone else was laughing, look how shocking. And I just think to myself, dude, it's from 1950 whatever.
Okay, but I would say this: there was a lot less of that than I was expecting.
True, but I mean,
most of it was pretty quiet and respectful, and people did clap at the end. And there was a lot of people. I would tell you this, right? I was not expecting that many people in a cinema at 6 o'clock on a Wednesday evening to watch a showing of The Abominable Snowman from 1956. I just wasn't expecting it.
I've seen more people posting about this quad series of Hammer screenings than almost any other, apart from the Al Pacino one. That was a big deal as well.
Well, because Al Pacino was there.
Yeah.
But this one was just some Hammer films. There was the queue for Curse of Frankenstein was nearly out the door.
Yeah.
How are we doing here, guys?
We're all done.
We're all good.
Right?
Yep.
Thank you very much. It was lovely.
Is there anything, or are you guys?
No, I'm
I think
good
we're
for
all
now.
right.
Thank you. But no, I mean it's
nice. It's great because
there
it's
is
one of
interest
us.
in these movies, and I didn't mean. There's
I
just
know
something
what
that
you mean.
sticks in my craw. Where I'm like, really, you're going to laugh at a movie
No,
from
because
1956?
that's what I was worried about seeing. I was like, please don't be ironic about it. But most people
weren't. But
They
there
really
was a
were.
giggle when the hand came in, and there was a giggle later on at something else. And I was just like, really?
But they could have giggled at the obvious, like, Chinese restaurant waiters and the weirdly German accented.
But you see, I actually thought, apart from the accents, I actually thought most of that was done really well.
Listen, I
and
will tell you
very
this, I'll tell you this,
respectful
right.
and very...
No, I agree. But a lot of it, I think, has to
I mean,
go...
apart from the guy in the cricket sweater walking around shouting in English, expecting Tibetan Sherpas to know exactly what he's saying.
Although he did seem to know what they were saying. Thank you
Oh,
very
yeah,
much.
yeah.
Thank you. But a lot of it's down to the director is Val Guest.
Yeah.
And he does a lot of the Hammer stuff. He does a lot of Hammer stuff. And I wouldn't necessarily say he's got like a distinctive style or anything.
Right.
Except that he's able to take good actors, a serviceable script, usually some kind of repurposed set.
Yeah.
And fling it all together and make a really good movie.
Oh, I mean, if anything, this holds together, and it's got there's a thing from another world vibe to it, meaning like the people cut off from humanity who all start to have their own like machinations or whatever, or paranoias or suspicions or whatever it is. That's kind of like bubbling in the script somewhere. It's not explicit, but it's there. The script is like playing with ideas of, again, a little bit of morality and a little bit of man versus nature and a little bit.
There's a little bit of like apocalyptic. There's a little bit of this is all coming to an end and what's waiting for it. There's a lot of things going on.
There's a lot of things going on in it, and
it's an interesting time to be alive in the late 50s.
And they're not over croutoning the soup, as it were. They're not.
No, they're not. It's pretty serviceable. Like it rolls along. I quite like that they cut back to the monastery every now and then.
Again, if I'm recommending it to people, I do have to say that again, like 2/3 of it is just talking and mountain shots and so on and so forth. So you have to.
It's not really I'm not even sure it necessarily qualifies as a horror film. Almost, it's more of a.
Right.
I don't know.
It's psychological a little bit.
Yeah. It's sort of like an adventure. I guess it is kind of a horror film, but not. It's not a monster film.
Right.
You know, it's.
But I just
gentler
mean
than that. It's quite a gentle movie.
It's gentle. The first 2/3, are fairly talky with. There's little bits where like they're climbing up a mountain and one of them slightly slips and you're like, all right, I get you have to put something exciting in here, but
it's a bit of a Heart of Darkness thing,
right.
venturing out into the edges of the world thing.
I mean, I have to say, like, I was very impressed with it.
Yeah, I've seen a few, and actually this one. And X the Unknown. X the Unknown is fun, but it is made by people who aren't completely sure about what they're doing.
Right.
Quatermass Experiment is okay, except I really didn't like. I still don't like Quatermass very much. But again, it's still an interesting film, and it's more of like an old-fashioned 50s.
It's like a John Wyndham,
like a The Blob kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But this one is well, I mean, it feels like one of those BBC TV plays. It's got that kind of vibe to it, where the strength of the writing and the acting and what they're saying is enough to carry you through. And you're right, the way they shoot the outdoors is actually really effective.
Yeah. The only thing you miss, of course, is that they're all walking around at 18,000 feet with their hats on. I mean, they would all have frostbite in an instant.
Yeah.
You know, so there's that aspect to it where you're a bit like, come on, guys, you couldn't have at least put a balaclava. Although Cushing in those like steampunk goggles.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I just want that as a poster.
Yeah.
Cushing with his mad hair.
Yeah.
His widow's peak and his steampunk goggles running about the mountain. I'm like, oh, that's brilliant.
That is very cool.
That is brilliant.
There aren't many Hammer horror films that don't have something to them.
Yeah.
But this one is... They're not always like movies that hang together, beginning, middle, and end. And this one does, and it is a fun one. I wouldn't start with it, but if you already love Cushing and you're interested in watching like a fun British low-key monster film from the 50s, this is almost exactly what you know I would show you.
Yeah, no, definitely, and it's one of those that's definitely the start of something rather than a fully formed something. You could certainly look to the original Invasion of the Body Snatchers. You could look to the original Night of the Living Dead, where the ideas that are certainly explored in this are done better in terms of, you know, human paranoia and mistrust and the enemy and are we the enemy, are they the enemy type thing. But I think for what's the word when something is like an embryonic
Well, I could be wrong.
Psychological horror, it's pretty great.
I'm assuming, and I could be wrong, but I'm assuming this is Cushing's first Hammer film.
I wouldn't.
I'm assuming it is, because if it's 56, I mean, he'd been in stuff before. He was Winston in the BBC 1984.
Right.
And he was in whatever the BBC production of this was, and that may be why they used him. But if this is the first Peter Cushing, like, he's good enough in it, obviously. The Hammer went, we can use this lad.
Yeah.
Like, this is the bloke we can use.
And it's funny, and I'm sure we'll talk about this the more we do of the series, but the amazing like confluence of events that like Cushing and Lee and some of the others, you know, Oliver Reed crops up from time to time, Michael Goff, and there's some other like players that
Ralph Bates, I still don't quite get,
who are scattered amongst the place. But like, you know, Hammer ends up having Technicolor gore, which is like something in their arsenal they can do. The Gothic sets, like the fact that they're in England, so if they want a castle, there's a castle. If they want an old tavern, there's an old tavern. If they want a whatever. And Cushing and Lee. And really, you have to say to yourself, if they hadn't stumbled over those guys, they're not a studio we're still talking about.
No, that's true. No, you're right. There was a. They discovered that they could just retell, you know, classic horror tales using pretty cheap sets because they had great actors and enough writers and directors to do something a little bit different each time.
And like you say, because the Beeb is putting out, whether it's Shakespeare, whether it's contemporary plays, whether it's whatever, there's a trunk somewhere full of costumes that they can just be like, well, we need some tweed, and the Beeb's like, well, we got all this leftover tweed lying around because we did.
It's like same Cushing to like rummage through the bins out the back of BBC
because we did Up the Tweed last week, which was a northern play that had all this tweed in it. You know what I mean? But like there's a wonderful.
Right up until the end, right up until the 70s.
There's a wonderful romance about Hammer.
Yeah.
I mean, there really is a reason why it is it is tied to its Englishness. And I know a lot of these stories are not necessarily stories that were originally English, and they were stories that have been filmed before on different budgets and with bigger studios and stuff like that. But there's a real that you get from Hammer in general. The sense of You know, we can do it, lads. You know, that kind of British, well, we'll all muck in. You know what I mean? Someone put on a felt jacket, someone else put on some tweed. Let's run about the moors. You know what I mean? There's that daring do aspect to Hammer. There's the camaraderie, because of course, like Lee and Cushing would famously be friends until Cushing's death. There's the fact that, like, at one point in sort of British film history, that there was like this Ealing Studios. You know, you could even say like the Carry On and whatever, because there's like a bit of crossover between there. I think that Carry On uses some of Hammer's people and vice versa.
Probably, yeah.
But like, there was this point where, like, you know, we were making stuff and it was like badass. Like, it was like really well written, well acted. Like, we're going to go up to fucking Snowdonia and have people running about mountaintops and have, you know, I presume hot air balloon footage or whatever that was at the beginning. Like, I mean, I love that. Like, that to me, right, it stirs the senses. And maybe you need to be two wily old British people like ourselves, but it does. It stirs my senses.
Well, it's kind of because I was watching when I watch these old Hammer films. It reminds me of how many of them I saw, not even all the way through, but like in bits and pieces when I was a kid.
Oh yeah,
growing up in England, you know, late night BBC, like. You know, it's all filler. It was like, it's Friday night, BBC 2, it's 1 a.m, so it's, you know, the horror of Dracula or, or Curse of Frankenstein or whatever.
Right.
And it's like, because it was there, and, you know, it's a horror film and we'll stick it on. But, like, you know, that's what... I just... Watching them again, I realised how much of it I'd seen.
Yeah,
how much of it I recognised and knew. And what a big part of our lives...
Yeah, it's ingrained in us.
Those movies
I
are.
have... And I've told it, I don't know how many times on the podcast, I have the most vivid memory of watching Prince of Darkness in Westcombe with you and John at like 2 a.m. Because we were laughing at the whole fact that the people in the tavern were right, the women were right, and the men were like, no, it's absolutely fine. It makes absolutely... you know, but I distinctly remember watching that and like having this idea that kind of like Cushing and Lee were sort of eternal. And I do like it because obviously we run the reviews from the bloke down the pub on the website, and I always love it when he talks about like the woods or the tavern set or whatever, because you're like, there is something about those sets and those woods and those
it's familiar.
Those like bit players that are in all of them that you're like,
Michael Ripper.
That was TV for us.
Yeah.
Or movies on TV at a certain point.
Yeah, but more than that too, like the notion of the forbidden as well. Like I remember, like that age, like, you know, the plunging necklines, and, you know, and the blood and the gore and the monsters, and I had this idea that Dracula and Frankenstein were monsters, and it was scary, and I wanted to see those films.
Yeah.
And so you'd see like bits and pieces of them, and you're aware that it was sort of tame because they were old, but it was still somehow full of meaning and significance.
Yeah.
That these things were forbidden to you when you were small.
Right.
You know what I mean? For whatever reason, because they're horror films, or because there's, you know, boobs in them or whatever. But that notion of this is forbidden, and then it's Cushing and Lee and stuff from, you know, whatever. At that point, 20, 30 years before, it seems, I don't know, it makes this impact on your understanding of what stories are and what is scary and what moves you and what, you know, interests you and excites you and all that.
And there's that part of you where, and I do think it's tangled up in something about being British, in the sense that, and it's interesting, I'm listening at the moment to Nick Offerman from Parks and Rec.
Right.
He wrote a book called Gumption, and it's his top 20 or whatever it is, American people he likes from American history and from contemporary America, who have like daring do and gumption and like forged things and pushed things forward and made things happen and did stuff, right? And he's talking all about, James Madison or George Washington or whatever. In the early part of the book, it's very much about the founding fathers. And just some of sort of the tidbits from their life. It's not like huge biographies. It's like each chapter is a different person. But it's fascinating. It really is. Like, it's interesting and it's inspiring, But because he is who he is, who's a very kind of conscientious and very modern, liberal kind of person as well, he's definitely talking about the contradictions and negative aspects and the fact they were slave owners and, the fact that they stole Native American lands and various other stuff. And he's trying to, reconcile a lot of that with the kind of American heroes that he's also recognizes did a lot of good, because there's this whole idea of, the American experiment and the Constitution. And he says, obviously there was the Magna Carta and there was other, documents from ancient Greece and other things that kind of played into it, but, here's this new contemporary experiment that was happening. And the reason why I bring all that up is that there's something about that ideal of being an English gentleman or being British or being whatever that means, that is intrinsically tied, for whatever reason, to the years of the empire, right? The stories of boys' own adventures and daring do and so on. And there's a lot of that. Even when we grew up, even whether it's watching Ripping Yarns, which is kind of parodying it, or whether we're watching Zulu or The Man Who Would Be King or whatever, or we're reading Rudyard Kipling or whatever. There's a lot of that. Even in the 80s where we grew up, there was a lot of that still buzzing around. It was still part of our upbringing, that idea that there was this English way, this British way, this old thing that was tied to men in pith helmets, probably standing on hillsides while sadly people were being clubbed to death, or horses were trampling people. And what's nice, I think, about someone like a Cushing, or someone like a Lee, or someone like the things you see in Hammer films, is that it allows you to have that English spirit and that British spirit and that idea of whether it's storytelling or nobility or gentlemanliness or being polite or being respect, whatever it is, or being an innovator or being doing a lot of, Sherlock Holmes is an innovator or a free forward thinker, or people in Abominable-Snowman doing mad explorations up a mountain or whatever. You get to have all that without having the negative aspect.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It becomes almost
the trouble is the more you're there'll always be an England, the more you feel that, then you're well, now I'm talking about these aristocracy wankers who went around killing people.
But that's the thing, because what we're talking about is something more nebulous than that. That stuff I'm talking about, Cushing as Van Helsing tackling Christopher Lee as Dracula. I saw that fight when I was 9 or 10 or something, and it was exciting and thrilling, and I recognise that those qualities you're talking about were in Van Helsing, even though he's whatever he is, Swiss, Dutch, or whatever. And this story is taking place in Romania. That those qualities were attractive to us as kids, because that's how Van Helsing dealt with evil. It was let's defeat evil through the medium of the stiff upper lip and all the rest of it.
Right.
So there's part of you that aspires to that, just like there's a part of us that aspires to be, creative, like John Lennon or whatever. The things that you admire and that speak to you for whatever reason, you seek to emulate them. And no one's, Peter Cushing as Van Helsing isn't going around, subjugating other countries, to his will in order to...
The closest you get is the Doctor and the Mummy, and actually he gets his comeuppance based on that anyway.
He's quite a dull character in the
No, but he's going around raiding the tombs.
No, fair point. And you're right, and he gets his comeuppance. But my point is that spirit that you're talking about, the thing that you're attracted to, is because that's how they, that's the strength that Van Helsing relies on to see him through.
Yeah.
And you see that, and you think, yeah, I wouldn't mind dealing with, the everyday monsters in my life, whether they're, people that are looking to do me in at school, or my own fear or whatever. If I'm going to deal with monsters, I would like to deal with them with a kind of a stiff upper lip and and a bit of style and
True, but
flair, but at the same time,
there is also that weird sort of excitable pride.
Yeah.
Well,
that might be because
And I just mean
the reason I went mad about starting to watch like Hammer films. I've always liked them, but like I went a bit, I decided I wanted to watch as many as I could because there was, I live in New York and I don't get like specifically homesick, but there is definitely
exactly
like an
what
expat
you're talking about.
thing.
Definitely.
And the Hammer films are like weird expat things because they might be filmed in England, but they're set in Romania or Germany or whatever.
Yeah.
Spain. Not that many in England, weirdly. But for some reason, it's less a connection to a place, but more like my own.
Right. I guess
childhood, I guess. Like my notion of what was entertaining at a certain
But it's
point
also
in my
that
life.
thing that I think it's something that I'm thinking a lot about, and I think it's the major stumbling block that we're kind of, without getting too serious or going off on a wanky discussion, but like that a lot of us are facing, or a lot of people are facing, because, and I guess I've always thought about it, is how are you patriotic about the right things without it veering over into the sort of privilege, pride, and aggression that patriotism could lead to, right? And it exists on this side of the Atlantic as much as it exists in England. But what I mean is, I want to be, well, I am. I'm fiercely patriotic about the Britain of Peter Cushing and the Britain of the Beatles or the Kings is probably a better example. And the Britain that produces the Bonzo Dog Doo Dah Band. Like that to me is like all the quintessentially like English things.
The answer to that is
without going, well, of course they're all privileged white people. So then it suddenly becomes this whole like other thing, because at the moment the discourse becomes so everyone has to feel bad about who they are and where they come from and what it is, apparently. And I understand why, but at the same time I like to hold on to it a little bit. And Hammer allows me to do that, I guess.
I suppose.
I don't know what I'm trying to say.
No,
I know what I'm trying to say.
I know what you're trying to say. I think the answer is pretty simple. Is that it's the same reason why I'm attracted to Hammer films. I'm not attracted to Hammer films because like their Dracula is really good, but it's not the best Dracula I've ever seen. Right? Their Frankenstein is really good, but I don't think it's the best Frankenstein I've ever seen. Like they're not the best films I've ever seen by any long shot. Right? The best Dracula I've seen is probably the Bela Lugosi one, right? It's really faithful to the novel. It's really spooky and strange and odd. And anyway, I like it a lot, and that's probably my favourite Dracula film. So it's not that they're the greatest films I've ever seen, but they connect me to some idea of how I felt about the world and what I felt was important and what I thought was cool when I was 12.
Yeah,
And I suppose the answer to your question is that it's okay to venerate things for what they mean to you. And you're not saying, oh, well, the Beatles are the Kinks are the greatest band who ever lived. But you can say, I loved the Kinks. And no other country in the world could produce the Kinks than England. And that's something about England that means something to you. It's like special for you. And I think the way around the thing you're talking about is that yes, white men have had a monopoly on having their voice heard and having their art be discussed and recognised and affect people. And that maybe has come at the cost of other people. But all you're talking about is what things mean to you, and you are a white man, right? And so as long as you're able to recognise that, well, the Kinks are important to you, and Peter Cushing is important to you, and these things are...
No, but I also find that Delta Blues speaks to me in a way that I can't explain.
Oh, no, of course, but you're talking about specifically about the patriotism thing. I'm saying that you love those things. Yeah, Chuck, that'd be great. Thank you.
That'd be great, yeah, thank you.
You're saying that these things are important to you, and they are things that have given you joy, and that you can even like kind of aspire to in a weird sort of a way, right? But
yeah, they conjure. It's.
But also because, but in that, like by giving you something to like reach for, right? And
they tap
try
into
and emulate.
They tap into an Englishness that
because that's where you're from.
Doesn't have to be bad. Is
listen,
what I mean.
You can't ever. Eric Clapton can try as hard as he likes, right? But you are never going to be a Delta Blues singer, right?
I don't want to be.
No, I'm just saying.
Right.
I'm just as an example, right?
Right. Yeah.
Delta Blues speaks to you, but you're never going to be a Delta Blues singer, and you recognise that, right?
But I could be Peter-Cushing.
But you could be Peter-Cushing. You could be in the Bonsai Dog Doodle band. You could have been, you know what I mean? Like you could start a band that could be like the Kinks, and that would be. So it's like it's a way of connecting yourself to your dreams and your ambitions and your idea of what you can achieve, and the fact that they are English and the fact that you're English is that's the commonality. That's what allows you to reach for that with some degree of.
There's a thing about
authenticity.
There's a thing about Cushing that.
Arguably, by the way,
I get passionate about in a way that is that hair up on the back of your neck, stand up straight, look into the sunset with a Union flag flapping in the breeze, and it's just a thing, and I don't want to escape it, but at the same time I know that it comes from a place that is conflicted.
No. See, I don't think. I think you're right. To want those things and to feel that way, it's just natural, especially as we're expats. I think it just comes natural. I think all other people might be saying about that is not that you're wrong for feeling that way, but that you and I, we had Peter Cushing and we had Christopher Lee and we had the Kinks, right? I don't think that all say a woman who was born at the same time as us. A woman.
Yeah.
It was, but a woman who was born at the same time as us. All she's saying is right, but where was my Christopher Lee?
No, I understand.
No. But so I mean, or where were my the Kinks? Because all I see is like women screaming and running away, and being rescued. Like where's the thing for me? I don't want to emulate running away and be rescued. I want to. We've got people that we can look up to. I want to deal with danger, like Peter Cushing. Right. And who they got? Nobody. And all they're saying is. That's great that you've got Peter Cushing, but that's no good for me. That doesn't work for me. I don't want to be like Peter Cushing.
No, I know all that. No, I'm
just saying, it's not that you don't. It's not wrong for feeling like connected to the place.
No, I was trying to say more about. I was actually trying to say that something like a Cushing or something like Hammer, more generally, actually allows me to tap into that. Whatever that Englishness is.
I know what you mean, yeah.
Without it having to be about,
what a bunch of colonial oppressive assholes.
Right.
Because we were quite divorced from that. We were the first generation, I think, that was taught that maybe it wasn't such a great thing.
Okay, I don't know that we were taught, but I think we came across that opinion.
Yeah.
Down the road.
So we are conflicted. I mean, our parents' generation is all Battle of Britain, everybody did some great things. Yeah, okay, some, but also some. Not, anyway, we don't want to get into the whole thing. I understand what you're conflicted about because it used to be when we were 12, or when we were crazy about the Kinks or the Small Faces, when we went through that period of Small Faces is where it's at. It was like a way of.
We did that like. I remember going to school and everyone talking about like Guns N' Roses and Nirvana.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I want to be on Carnaby Street with a pair of striped trousers and a top hat.
Right.
And like, I can't. Why? I mean, maybe it was just because we were like plummy middle class white kids. I have no idea, but like there was a big thing about.
I just think we came across. I just think that we were lucky that you got to remember that when
there was also Blur and Oasis.
No, that's the thing. In the late 80s and early 90s, all the bands and a lot of artists that were coming up were influenced massively by the 60s. So, we found out about the Kinks through my dad, but also because like Damon Albarn did a duet on Waterloo Sunset with Ray Davies on a music show, and we're like, fucking hell, that was cool, or whatever.
Right.
That's why it was there for us, and rather than look to the things around us, we chose to we were interested by things from that time that they were interested in.
Let me ask you a question.
Okay.
At that time,
yeah.
when we were kids and teenagers, I know that it was tied up in like affectation and trying to find out who we were and da-da-da-da-da. But it also, to me, like at the time, and hope, I think also for John, but like for me, like growing my hair long and wearing weird clothes and listening to that music and stuff, like that felt like me. Like that felt like who I was and who I wanted to be. And it was definitely that moment of like breaking out and trying to like figure out who you are. And it felt like, and now, because obviously I've taken in a lot of other external things, so a lot of which are American, not just because I lived here, but even back in
way before,
even back in the UK, taking a lot of like American influences and stuff like that. But there is, I guess I'll always be happy that we had Westcombe, because to me there is that thing where there's almost authenticity in that nostalgia that if I tried to do it now, if I was like, well, I'm just going to go back and I'm just going to listen to the music that we listened to back then,
it's not the way
I would now be doing it. It wouldn't be authentic. Who I am right now is authentic, which is an amalgam of all these different things.
You know, there's a point in your life where if you're lucky enough, and we were, that you find yourself
very lucky. I mean,
you find yourself in a group. You find yourself in a group of people, and you're all. It's not only that you're all reaching for the same thing, but you all agree on what it is that you're reaching for, and also like we all had our own unique things. Like we all love the Kinks, but John loved the Kinks, and you know we all loved the Tragedy Hip, but I loved the Tragedy Hip, and we all loved, you know, the Bonzo or Monty Python, but you loved Monty Python. Do you know what I mean? Like, well, we all loved them. We all picked up these influences from each other, but we also had some things that were, you know.
I was the guy buying Neil in his solo albums that nobody else cared about. Right. Yeah.
So I'm just saying that we were all reaching for the same thing, and we were all reaching for it together, and we were all able to influence each other and make each other laugh and introduce new things to each other, and we were all becoming, you know, and that's. We've all become now. So when I watch Hammer films now, I'm not watching them because they're like, you know, great, unique works of art. Although most of them, which I've been surprised by, there's only been a couple that are just flat out bad. Most of them are, at the very least, watchable. And I would say 70% of them are surprising in that not only are they good and well made, but they've got something to say.
Yeah.
But I'm watching them in part out of nostalgia and a kind of seeking to recapture that. Thank you very much. That Westcombe feeling of watching those kind of films at 1 a.m.
Yeah.
So I know exactly what you mean, and partly that is we were in England and we were English, and we were. That was a, you know, we were at that age. We were aware that English people were different from French people, were different from American people, and that was a part of who we were, for better or worse.
Right.
And we were trying to figure out what that meant.
Yeah. It's odd. The White Album will never, ever, ever sound as good as it did the first time John and I listened to it together.
Yeah, I can believe that.
John and I put the White Album on in his room in Westcombe, the front room, when he was in there with all the posters on it, and we listened to the White Album, and it will never sound as good as it sounded that day. And it's funny how you're always trying, not just with that White Album, it's not like I put the White Album and going, please sound that way, but like, I'm always looking for that, like whatever the new thing is. It's like, the Mountain Goats will never ever be as good as they were the night in the winery, because although that wasn't the best gig that I've seen them do, for me personally, they played every single song that I needed them to play at that point in my life, and it was the best moment. And you know what I mean? And Hammer is one of those things.
We are weirdly, so I have
Hammer is one of those things. Hammer is ingrained in you in the same way as
I have a very curious thing with Hammer, and I don't think it's a mystery that's never going to be solved. There is a scene in a Hammer film where a woman in a yellow dress is on the run from Dracula. And I've seen this a few times. I saw it when I was a kid, saw it when I was a teenager.
And you can't find what
and
film
I've
it's
seen
from?
it when I was in Ballon at like 2 a.m. I've now watched every single Dracula film, and I have still not seen this scene. I know it exists.
It's definitely Lee.
Yeah, I mean, he's the only one that ever played Dracula. There's the Brides of Dracula, right? Because that occurred to me.
No, but it's definitely a Hammer film.
Yeah, I think, yes, it's definitely a Hammer film.
Yellow dress, huh?
Yellow dress, red hair, and on the run from Dracula. And at night in this kind of like garden thing. And I haven't seen it. I thought briefly it might have been, was it Taste the Blood of Dracula? But it wasn't Taste the Blood of Dracula. So it's like a weird thing. It's like partly one of the things that got me started watching was this powerful memory when I was a kid of watching this Hammer film where this woman was on the run from Dracula. And it's like I will never... I don't know, there's something always satisfying about the fact that I'm going to watch every Hammer film and we'll never see that scene. And maybe you're right, maybe it's like an Amicus one, but I don't think so, because it's just like the hairstyle was 60s. You know?
Amicus is the next thing I need to, because I haven't seen any of those. Really.
Well, I think the Amicus ones, they're just sort of like leftover Hammer scripts, leftover Hammer actors, and like Hammer wasn't... They were sort of squeezing the last out of it, really. I don't think they did anything... Like the Blood Beast Terror is not good. That's all right, the giant moth creature.
Yeah.
It's like they're fine, but there's...
But it's a giant moth creature.
Yeah, I mean...
They went, what have we done? What have we got left?
I'm sure they're fine.
Moths. Wait, Nigel, what did you say? Moths.
Moths. They're fine. They're just, you know... I don't know.
How about a giant moth? Well, a bit closer there, a bit closer there.
A bit closer. Could it be a giant killer moth? Now we're cooking on gas.
Now
we're cooking on moth gas.
Excellent.
Anyway, I know exactly what you mean about Hammer, and that's why I watched it.
I just wanted to reminisce a little bit.
And we did.
It always evokes something in me.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's sort of...
We are getting old.
No, it's not just...
And we are now... No, I'm just saying, I find myself more prone to pointless... nostalgia than I used to be.
I think it reminds...
No. It's a nice feeling.
It reminds you you're alive.
Yeah, it's a nice thing. You're right, actually. It's coming to terms with the fact that nostalgia is a nice thing. It's okay to like be nostalgic for something, as long as you're not like it's okay to be nostalgic about your own life. Right. I think it's not nostalgic to be like, oh, it was so much better in my day. It's like, well, it was in some ways, and in many other ways, it really wasn't.
No, I'm not. I'm never.
No.
I would
I know.
never want to go
but
back to being 15. But
no, God no.
But I would like to go back to Westcombe and sit on the couch with you and John and watch Hammer films.
Yeah, like those summers.
Right.
Of like 13, when we were 13, 14, 15, that were like, I think 2 months long.
Yeah.
Were amazing.
Yeah, and also, like, we were talking earlier, because...
Smoking cigarettes guilt-free.
Right.
Do you remember what that was like?
Oh, it was amazing.
We could just smoke cigarettes. And not only were we guilt-free, but it was, like, dangerous and cool.
Yeah.
I'd give anything for, like, being dangerous and cool to be that easy again.
Yeah, right. But even...
I mean, I will never be cool and dangerous again. It's just
we were talking about your wedding earlier, but, like... And I said this, like, when I was trying to pitch to Kim about, like, actually having a wedding.
Did you want to dress up like Christopher Lee?
No, my thing was... No, although I do want to dress up as Van Helsing. I do. I want to wear all tweed. I want to get the tweediest suit I can possibly get.
You should.
The trouble... Anyway, we'll talk about... one of the things I say to Kim and have said to people is that your wedding... It was all the bits around the wedding bits that I really loved. Like, of course, the dinner and the dancing and everything, that was wonderful. But the actual really great bits was playing I Am Batman on the guitar.
Oh, yeah, the Batman musical.
With
the Simon and Garfunkel Batman musical.
Yeah,
that was good.
You and Chip. Or singing, like, My Crazy Sex Face with John and Hannibal down on the floor. Like, and then getting up the next morning... And us all being like downstairs and having
that was really fun. Yeah.
And I'm like, how do I get a weekend where it's 99% that?
Yeah.
And that's why, you know, like the more we talk about, like, well, the reception has to be this and that. I'm like, if we can make that the smallest amount of things, Because really all I want to do is like sit out, you know, under some trees with, you know, you and John and whoever else with some music playing and, you know, roast some marshmallows and chat about old times.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good.
That's what I want to do.
And I suppose that ultimately is what we're saying about Hammer films, is that it is an easy way to sink back into briefly like that way of being, just that time.
Yeah, it's wonderful. It's super. And
well, thanks for having me, man. For talking about it.
You're welcome. You're welcome. It's always a pleasure. Always a thrill. Let's go.
Let's go pay.
I give you a toast, ladies and gentlemen. I give you a toast, ladies and gentlemen. May this fair land we love so well in dignity and freedom dwell. The worlds may change and go awry, while there is still one voice to cry. There'll always be an England, while there's a country lane. Wherever there's a cottage small beside a field of grain, there'll always be an England, while there's a busy street. Wherever there's a turning wheel, a million marching feet. Red, white and blue, what does it mean to you? Surely you're proud, shout it aloud, Britain's awake. The Empire too, we can depend on you. Freedom remains, these are the chains nothing can break. There'll always be an England, and England shall be free. If England means as much to you as England means to me.